So in this video, I'm going to settle this motivation letter debate. What to write, what not to write, how to write. And if you would watch this video, I assure you, you would be able to write any kind of motivation letter, not just for the scholarship. But before writing a motivation letter, you have to understand some things in order to write it in a good way. The first thing is, what is a motivation letter and why do you need it? Look, in any kind of application, you would see two things, CV and motivation letter. And the reason is that the recruiter or the examiner, the person who is selecting you, who has a task to select the students or to select the applicants, he doesn't know you. So just to get the idea about who you are, they ask you for these two documents. So the reason they ask you for the CV is because it contains the facts and the figures about your life. What's your name? Where are you from? What have you done previously? What's your qualification? And so on. And the reason they ask you to write the motivation letter is because in motivation letter, you have to express yourself the way you see yourself, and it basically shows your personality. So you can imagine these two things give the first impression to the examiner or the recruiter. So I hope you understand the reason why these two things you get to see everywhere. So the second thing that you have to know before writing any kind of motivation letter is that the examiner is expecting you to fulfill some requirements. And of course, these requirements depends upon your program, the position you're applying, the job you're applying for, and etc. Your whole motivation letter depends upon fulfilling these requirements. You can consider these requirements as questions that you have to answer. And if you would be able to answer these questions, you're good to go. Your motivation letter is done. Nothing to worry about. And the third thing that is really important is research about the discipline, program, or the job you're applying to. You can find the information about these requirements by going to the program section of whatever university, whatever job, or whatever program you're applying to. And also talk with some students, some person who are already doing that job, who are already doing that program. And the fourth thing is that you have to show to the examiner that why he should choose you over the other students. So keep these things in your mind before writing any kind of motivation letter. And now let's move on to the most requested part, how to write a motivation letter. So when I am writing a motivation letter, I usually divide my motivation letter into three parts. The first part, I call it introduction. The second part is the body, where you have to kind of give the answers to those questions. And the third part is the ending part. And of course, I have different approaches to write the description in each of this part, depending upon the condition I told you in the beginning of the video. So let's tailor these conditions according to the students who apply every year on Stipendium Hungaricum scholarship. So let's suppose there is one student who is applying to medicine and he has done pre-medical in his high school. So this is the first condition in which a student has the motivation and a student has relevant qualification and relevant experience. And then comes the second condition, a student who has done pre-medical in his high school, but now he wants to change his discipline. He wants to go to computer science, let's suppose. So of course, he has some reason, he has some motivation to go to computer science because he wants to change his discipline because of some reasons. But of course, he doesn't have the relevant qualification for that. And now there is a third student who just want to come to Hungary. He doesn't care which degree he wants to do. He doesn't care about the program. He just wants to come to Hungary. He just wants to come and study and enjoy the culture. So the third condition, I call it false motivation, where you don't have the motivation about the program you're applying to, but your motivation is, let's suppose, just coming out of your country. So first, let's talk about the introduction part. In the introduction part, of course, most of the students starts like, hey, my name is Soban, I'm from Pakistan, I have done pre-medical in my high school, and so on. This is a way that you can start your motivation letter, but there is a better way to do it. Look, these things the examiner can see in the CV, and these are probably the first thing that he would see in your CV. And if you would repeat this thing in the motivation letter, you're kind of wasting the time of the recruiter. So you have to give the recruiter something in the first part of your motivation letter which catches the attention. And here comes the hooks. What are hooks? Hooks are the sentences that catches the attention of the reader. It kind of forces them to read. So you kind of have to make your motivation letter interesting to stand out from the other applicants. So I'll give you an example. There is one student who start like, hey, my name is Soban, I'm from Pakistan, and I have done pre-medical and something like this. And there is another student who says like, everyone has been telling me that physiotherapy is not worth it. But after being to the physiotherapist because of my sports injuries and attending the career fairs, how interesting and important physiotherapy is. So in this one sentence, I not only mentioned that I play sports professionally, I also mentioned that I am active and I'm looking for the career options. I have been to the career fair, I have been to the university open day. Also, another example can be everyone chooses medicine because it's a really honorable profession and highly paid profession. But for me, the reason was different. So look, out of the simple one and the one with the hook, which one would you like to read? So these are just examples. You can look for the hooks on the internet as well. You can, come up with your own as well. So it's totally depending upon you. So let's move on to the next part, which is the body of the letter. So in this part, you are elaborating more what you have written in your introduction. So to attempt this part, it's really important that you research about the discipline, you research about the university, you research about the requirements that they have put on the website. So this part mostly depends upon your research, depends upon finding those requirements and answering those questions in a way that you explain to them that why should they choose you over another student. So again, this part is just answering those requirements, those questions. So try to answer the questions by 4 things. Number 1, your qualifications. Number 2, your experiences. Number 3, your skills. Number 4, your reasons. And these are the things which would make you stand out from the other applicants. Because most of the time in the body, applicants are writing stories, they're writing their personal experiences and things like this. But if you would use these 4 things, you would make the examiner's job a lot more easier. Again, if you're a first condition student, you have the motivation, you have the qualification, that should be really easy for you to solve. The second condition, where the student doesn't have the relevant qualification and experience, so in this condition, try to mention the reasons why you are changing the discipline or why did you make this decision. So try to tell them the exact reasons, and that should be okay for the examiner if your reasons are valid and he thinks like you have the genuine reason. And of course, the last condition, which I like the most, is when you don't have the real motivation for the program. So in this condition, try to research about that discipline you're applying to, the field or the job or the application you're applying to. That helps a lot. Here comes the ChatGPT, here comes Google. And it's also important that you talk with someone related to that field. That would give you an idea about what the field is. And once you research about the field you're applying to, you would actually get the idea really easily what to write in the motivation letter. And it's not just for these kind of students, but for every kind of students, every kind of applicants. It's really important that you do enough research about the discipline, talk with the people from that, discipline or from that program who are in that field, working in that field. So it will give you an idea about what to write in the motivation letter and what the examiner is expecting from you. And in the last part, which is the ending part, now most of the students here as well do this mistake that they just, end the letter and they say like, thank you so much for your time and I hope I get the admission and something like this. Better thing to do is you give them the plan, you give them what would you like to do after doing that degree. The examiner really likes this thing that the student has a plan, he has a goal in his life and he knows what he is doing. So with that also comes the answer to the question that can I write 2 programs in one motivation letter? Look, in most of the scenarios, it's a big no-no. It shows a really weak motivation. It's a really big mistake that people do in most of the cases. Because you have to show them that you have a goal, you know what you are doing. And if you would say, yeah, if I get the chance, if I would do that as well, and if I get the chance, I can do that as well. It depends on the opportunity. Then it's a really weak motivation. It's a really big mistake. I did this mistake back then when I was applying for the Italian universities. One of the universities replied me that in your motivation, this was the mistake. So always prioritize the motivation letter of your first choice, because the second choice universities also know that you have written the motivation letter for the first priority, not the second priority. So I would suggest not to do it, but if you really want to do it, it's up to you. And then the blame is not on me. So don't come to me that I didn't tell you. So that's the end of this long video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I would really appreciate if you would click that subscribe button, that red one, and also like the video if you learned something really useful from this video. So the next video is gonna be the Q&A video for the Stipendium Hungaricum scholarship. So if you have any questions, specific questions about the stipendium, about the motivation letter, please ask in the comment section. I'll try to answer in that video. And yeah, that's it for the video. See you soon. Goodbye.